Okay, this is Discover the Word, the Broken Way, program number 9.
And there is so much pain in so many places in our lives. And the people around us, they're in so much pain. How can we help?
I think sometimes that's why it's easier to go ahead and turn away from brokenness and suffering in the world. We're overwhelmed by the suffering in our own families, in our own church communities.
I can't tell you how many times I am afraid to move towards somebody's pain.
Yeah.
Really?
You're always afraid of saying the wrong thing. And
But my problem is I, after some years, began to notice this about myself. How much aversion I had to move toward people's pain. I was more interested in trying to say the right things to sort of like move past it. Or simply not to show up.
Wow.
I mean, that's
honest.
You have to live to be an old man like me to figure that out. I mean,
How did you get to that place of realizing that you were doing that?
I began to realize how it wasn't working for
It wasn't working to try to avert.
It was working for me personally for a while. But in the end, when I began to think about, do I really love people?
Relationships.
It wasn't working for me.
Wow.
I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, but that was profound. And very vulnerable.
No, it was just kind of painful.
Right? Very painful. But I think we have deep aversion to pain in the world because, again, we can't meet that pain in and of ourselves. What can I bring to somebody's pain? What does that look like, whether it's on an international level, a global level? What does it look like at my own personal level?
And it's frightening.
Terrifying. But especially in and of ourselves, if we think, I have to try to fix this because we can't fix it.
I'm going to make it worse.
We
I
are.
remember times when I tried to enter in and I made it worse.
for me, it's very similar, but from a different angle. And I spent 20-some years as a pastor, where you're expected to respond to people's pain. And after a while, you just feel like you're drowning in it, and you've got to escape because it just seems like no matter what direction you turn, there's more pain, and somehow you've got to deal with it.
Yeah, I remember one time sitting around the table. It was around a farm table. It was in another state. And I sat there, and these people had just lost a young teenage son. He had just died in a car wreck down the road from them. And they took me out, and they showed me the place, and then we went back, and we ate, and they talked about it, And I had no idea what to say. I sat there like a dumb log, And finally I said, I guess it's just going to take time. And they got angry with me. I mean, just saying that much, it's going to take time. They didn't want to hear that. Yeah. I thought about that for years. I mean, that was one of the, I guess we learn through life, don't we, to avoid pain?
Yeah, I think we do.
Well, and if we're going to try to avoid our own pain, certainly we're going to try to avoid other people's pain.
Yeah.
But what does help, Mart? I mean, I hear what you're saying, that you can say the wrong thing, and so we get silent. But is there something we can say?
I don't have
or
the
is there
answers.
some
I
way?
mean, Ann is here to talk us through this.
And I'm just processing too. I think sometimes, for me, I've thought when pain is deepest, words are the fewest. Sometimes just sitting with someone in the ministry of presence, I don't have any words, but I'm here with you. Sometimes time doesn't heal wounds like God heals wounds. I think we sit with people in their pain. We have to grant each other grace because we're going to get it wrong. We're going to say the wrong thing. But I think showing up matters, that somebody cared enough to show up in the midst of the pain. Because you're right, everybody wants to flee. Because we all say, I don't know what to say. Yeah. I don't know what to do.
Friends of Job.
Right, right. Please, Lord, make us not friends of Job.
No, they got it right in the beginning.
But they sat there saying nothing for 7 days.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they were there.
Right.
They got that part right. It's when they started talking.
And sometimes just being with someone and showing up and being present, that they're not alone. Witness breaks brokenness. And I think that's what Christ has done for us. He is Emmanuel, God with us. He sits with us. I think about that's the character of Christ, who he is at his very heart. If you turn to Mark 8, verse 2.
Okay, I've got it.
Mark 8.
Mark 8, verse 2.
Is that in the New Testament?
It is.
In mine it is. Yeah.
And Jesus says, he looks at all the brokenness and all the pain. And how does Jesus feel? I have compassion on the crowd. says
What
in-
was the setting? What was going on there?
Okay, so the people have been with him now for 3 days. They've got nothing to eat. He's not frustrated with them. He's not frustrated with their own frustrations. He has compassion on the crowd.
And then he ends up feeding them.
He ends up feeding them. Mark 9:36 says when Jesus saw the crowds, what does he have? He has compassion on them. Lots of times, at least in my own default, sometimes I don't see God as having compassion on me. I see him as being as frustrated with my own brokenness as I sometimes feel frustrated with my own brokenness. Sometimes we think about the shepherd comes and he punishes the sheep. He's frustrated with the sheep. But ultimately, the shepherd is only about compassion. Sometimes we think that the shepherd breaks the leg of the sheep to teach the sheep a lesson. When I was in Israel a year and a half ago, this messianic believer was teaching us what does that really mean? What does it mean when Jesus is a shepherd? How does Jesus go ahead? How does the shepherd go ahead and take care of the sheep? The shepherd would never break the leg of a sheep at all. The shepherd may go, that word break is actually a very different break. B-R-A-K, not B-R-E-A-K.
Oh.
Break the leg of the sheep. Actually put a weight on the leg of the sheep.
Oh my goodness.
To draw the sheep closer to the shepherd, not ever break. So can I go
Are you
ahead?
sure about that?
Honestly, that our guide in Israel was so frustrated with the North American understanding of that break. He said shepherds in Israel would never go ahead and break the leg of the sheep. That breaking is actually might put a weight on the leg of the sheep to lead the sheep closer to the shepherd. And when the sheep then was trained to hear the shepherd's voice, the break comes off and the sheep stays close. The shepherd,
different.
completely different understanding of break. So could I see all situations that I've had in my life that they might feel like a weight, but that weight wasn't to break me. That weight was as a break to draw me closer to the Lord all of the time. The shepherd has deep compassion on his sheep. So I think the answer to suffering in the world, how can we help? How do we have compassion for the brokenness in the world like Jesus had compassion? Spurgeon says, if you could sum up the whole character of Christ in reference to ourselves, it might be gathered into this one sentence. So how does Jesus really feel about us? The whole character of Jesus, what does he really feel about us? He was moved with compassion towards us. I mean, that's a profound way to understand the heart of Christ for us, is to draw us closer to himself all of the time. In every situation, he's having compassion on us, not to break us, but to draw us closer to himself.
Okay, what do you do with David in Psalm 51 when he says that the bones that you have broken would be made whole, you know?
And are the breaking in quotations, is it somehow a way that draws us closer
So it's
to
got to be the
Jesus?
intent of it. It's got to be that he cares.
It's cares. It's his heart.
It's not like I'm furious with you and I'm just going to bust you up.
Bust you up. He's doing
Right.
everything to draw us closer to himself. And compassion, we look at what is the meaning of that word. We're back to compassion means suffering, and co means with.
Suffer with.
We suffer
Okay.
with. So what's the answer to brokenness in the world? Exactly what Jesus had on us.
Ugh.
Compassion, co-suffering. So can I have compassion in the world means, can I come along and co-suffer
So
with someone?
instead of averting pain, instead of acknowledging it or running the other direction, actually not just showing up, but actually suffering with another person is what we have to offer, because we're
Sounds
offering
so
the
painful,
suffering of
doesn't it?
Jesus in that moment.
He's asking us to enter into the sufferings of Christ, to enter into the sufferings of the world, to be like Jesus. The heart and the character of Christ was compassionate, to co-suffer with people. We've had a season in our own family where there's just been so many of the people we love are facing cancer,
Oh boy, yes.
facing a terminal diagnosis. We had a beautiful woman in our congregation was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She had 3 little children, and our children were rocked to their core. How do we go ahead and love this mama at church? Which is what we're all really asking. We look around at the people who are broken all around us, and what do I do? How can I help? And Malachi, our 4th son, he said, he turned to Shalom, And he said, the way I see pain is like this. So this is a child's understanding.
How old is he right at this
He's
point?
14. In the story, he would have been 12 and a half.
Okay.
And she was maybe 8 or
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. And so he took, and Shalom was distressed. She loves this woman at church, and to think that she's going to lose this woman, and the kids that she loves at church are going to be left without a mama.
Oh, that's
So I mean,
because it's their world. I mean,
completely
they're imagining
world.
that happening
Again,
to them.
suffering and brokenness so up close, right in front of their faces. What do you do? And Malachi had turned to Shalom and said, he saw pain. I see pain like a pack of wolves attacking sheep. And it's pain that always brings out the heroes. Who's going to come and help the sheep?
Your son said that?
Yes.
No, wait a minute. Wait.
He is, and he's the one I want to be a pastor, because I'm like, as soon as he said it, I stopped what I was doing, and I grabbed a pen and I wrote it down, because I thought it was so profound that pain is like all the wolves attacking the sheep, and the pain brings out the heroes. Who are the people who are going to co-suffer with you? Pain brings out the people who are going to have compassion on you. So that's what I turned to Shalom and said, that's what we'll do. In the midst of this painful situation with this family at church, will we be the heroes that come and co-suffer with them?
Which requires a certain amount of courage.
It does, to step
Right.
into that
It's
place.
like a
does it-
first responder who
It
runs
is,
in
yeah.
while
It
everybody
is,
else
yeah.
is running out.
Right.
But it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to slay the pain.
No, you're going to enter into
Which
it
is
with them,
what we wanna
and you're
do.
back to stay. Go, I will just bear it with you. You aren't alone in this pain. So it means coming alongside and co-suffering with someone. How can I be compassionate in this situation? That might be showing up with a meal. That might be just sitting on the couch, letting someone cry, and you cry with them. It might be praying with someone, sharing scripture, and it might just be sitting silently with somebody and holding their hand. But the
But
heroes,
regardless, it's a matter of caring.
it is a matter of caring and knowing that pain is not something that we're supposed to avoid, avert. Pain brings out the heroes. Pain brings out the ones who will be like Jesus and rush into those situations and have compassion, co-suffer with someone.